You're listening to Life Inspirations. The Hand of God. Just before we read our starting scripture, I just want to say it's absolutely astonishing as to how God has made man, what he's packed into us physically, mentally, socially, skill-wise. It's incredible. And right at the beginning, in Genesis 1:26 and 27, it says this: Then God said, let us make human beings in our image, to be like us. They will reign over the fish in the sea, the birds in the sky, the livestock, all the wild animals on the earth, and the small animals that scurry along the ground. So God created human beings in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. The makeup of a human being is so complex that I think it takes a huge amount of faith to believe that we came from nothing and that we were the result of some sort of cosmic accident or chance happening. It's a lot more faith than simply believing that we came from the hand of a creator. And so the incredible design and marvels of the human body would take a long, long time to talk about. We'd be here for hours, possibly weeks, possibly months. But let's look at a few. You see, a baby is born with around 300 bones, and by the time they are an adult, they have 206. What's happened here? As they grow, some of the bones fuse together. Every second, your body produces 3.8 million new cells, and that's about 14 trillion cells per hour. You have 60,000 to 100,000 miles of blood vessels, enough to go around the earth 3 times. Your tongue has 3,000 taste buds. Your nose can remember 50,000 different scents. Your eye can distinguish 17,000 different colours. And if you're a man, you blink 15,000 times a day. Woman, twice as many, apparently. Your feet in your lifetime can take you 5 times around the equator. David marvelled in Psalm 139, verse 13 to 14, at what God had done. For it was you who created my inward parts. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I will praise you because I have been fearfully and wonderfully made. But beyond all this amazing installation physically from the hand of God, there's a remarkable ability to invent and create and devise and to produce improvement and progress in everything man does. To think and decide and to feel and to make music. And in Exodus 31 verse 3, God talks about the craftsman to do with the tabernacle. And he says, I have filled him, talking about a particular person, with the Spirit of God, in wisdom and understanding and knowledge and in all manner of workmanship. What man can do is truly amazing. There was news recently, for example, with a remarkable breakthrough in extracting protein from the air to make meat, stuff that has the taste of or texture of chicken, seafood and beef. And scientists tapped into a process from the 1960s where they wanted to create food from the exhaled air of astronauts to be able to eat in space. Incredible. How does man do this? So the question here is, what is God's part in our lives and our future? And what is our part? How does it work? I heard a sermon some years ago in a conference that has sort of stayed with me, and I want to bring some of those points out here today in this podcast. You know, I've been leading a church for the last 38 years, and it always seemed to come up, what is God's part in the church that he's building, and what is our part? You see, we can do a lot of things with our own hands. We can create, we can lead, we can do all manner of things when it comes to church life, for example. But clearly, time and time again, there was a desperation that we needed the presence and lordship of Jesus Christ to allow his work and eternal purposes to be accomplished. So let's dig a bit deeper here. I want to look at Ezekiel 43, verse 12 to 13, and then chapter 40, verse 5. This is the law of the temple. All the surrounding area on top of the mountain will be most holy. Such is the law of the temple or the house. These are the measurements of the altar in long cubits, that cubit being a cubit and a handbreadth. Its gutter is a cubit deep and a cubit wide, with a rim of 1 span around the edge. And this is the height of the altar. And then in verse 5 of chapter 40, I saw a wall completely surrounding the temple area. The length of the measuring rod in the man's hand was 6 long cubits, each of which was a cubit and a handbreadth. He measured the wall. It was 1 measuring rod thick and 1 rod high. In our text, we see that there were 40 different things in the house or temple that were to be measured by cubits. And the question here is, why was it a cubit and a handbreadth? What's the meaning of this? So we see the common measure in the Bible days was something called a cubit. Noah used cubits as a measure to build the ark. God came up with a system and gave it to Noah. It's 6 handbreadths of a man from the tip of your longest finger back to the elbow joint. That's a cubit, 18 inches. The giant Goliath in the Bible measured 9 cubits, which was 13.5 feet. That's enormous. They built amazing things, homes and swords and shields and many things and inventions, because it was called the Amah, the mother of the forearm. It's what we create with. So knowledge has greatly increased since that time, as Daniel prophesied. Buckman Fuller, with the knowledge doubling curve, said that from Christ to Leonardo da Vinci, knowledge doubled over 1500 years. Then knowledge doubled next in 250 years, then in only 50 years. In 1960, it took 10 years for knowledge to double. In the 1980s, it was every 2 years. Knowledge doubled in the 1990s every 18 months. In the year 2000, it was every 6 months, then every 8 weeks. Now, in 2025, knowledge doubles every 12 hours. You see, the world is a tribute to the cubit of a man, the giftedness of man, the things that man can do, the intellectual capacity and the ability of a man is astounding. To create, to engineer, to reason, to make things, to unravel DNA, split the atom, walk on the moon, to operate on the heart or the brain, face transplants. All is done through the cubit of a man. To cure diseases is astonishing. The cubit speaks of what a man can do with his skillful hands. Building aeroplanes, space shuttles, cell phones, iPhones, computers, robotic surgery, GPS, satellites. Why? Because we are made in the image of God. All this has been done by the 6 handbreadths of a man's hand. It gives birth to the genius of a man. You see, man is gifted all by himself. God has made us with these abilities to create. There is power in our hands to create it. I'm a great fan of SailGP, or when the America's Cup comes round. And I find it astonishing that these great machines that they've made and invented can sail in a breeze of 6 knots, but then they're able to do 26 knots in that breeze. In 2017, they discovered via the Kepler Space Telescope, that's 380 trillion kilometres away, another sun. That's what they found. A dwarf star cooler than our sun called TRAPPIST-1. And they saw 7 planets orbiting it. They called it a sister solar system, about 40 light years away. And if you wanted to go there just to pop over and have a first-hand look, it would take you 700,000 years to travel at the speed of Voyager. The universe displays God's glory, but the scientific discoveries are absolutely marvellous. But here's the rub. Sometimes the giftedness and genius of man can rob us of our need for God. We begin to get puffed up and want to go our own way without God, or deny that He even exists. We try and make things happen without God. We believe there is no God and we are on our own in this universe. The real problem is that man can make the jump from or away from God and believe that somehow they themselves, without God, are responsible for everything they create or do. But Jesus said it plainly. John 15:5, I am the true vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. He doesn't even say you can do something or a wee bit. You can do nothing of eternal value. Man can cure many things but can't cure the soul, no matter how he tries. Without me, he says. And I don't care how talented or gifted a person is, or intelligent or brainy. Without him, we can do nothing. You see, 6 handbreadths of a man's hand is 1 cubit. 6 is the number of man. And God created the earth in 6 days. And on the 7th day, we will rest. That's my day, God's saying. What you can do is 6. But when you talk about 7 days, it completes the week. It's the number of completion. And when it comes to the 7th day, that's the day of rest. That's the day when God walks and talks and sits down with his people. Amazing. 6 represents human effort, ingenuity, ability and strength and genius. And when God gave Ezekiel this vision for the temple, he said 40 times, I want you to build the altar and make it in this many cubits. And he said, I want you to make it 1 cubit and a handbreadth, the 7th hand. And everything you have built in life is with human hands. But if you're going to build me a house, a dwelling place, this is the law of my house. You cannot build it by just being talented and clever and educated and smart. You've got to have the 7th hand, which is the hand of God on your life, on your ministry, on your calling, on your church. It takes the 7th hand. Without him, we can do nothing. Of course, we need man's cubit. We need the 6 hands. Somebody's got to make music. Somebody's got to build a sound system. Somebody's got to make the aircon and build buildings and cars. But we can't solely lean on that talent, on that flashy stuff, man's talent, because what is going to change lives is when the 7th hand comes and touches a song or a moment or a life. And that can't be manufactured by man. That's why Jesus said, without me, you can do nothing. You see, you can put a machine on Mars and take wonderful pictures, but you can't build my house. You can't build anything eternal without my hand. You can build beautiful things, but you cannot set a captive free. You cannot set a drug addict free without the hand of God. You let the 7th hand become involved and suddenly miracles happen. You can build everything else with 6, but you can't raise a family and build a home by your own ability and raise teenagers by yourself. You see, when they go to school, a hand follows them. When they get into the wrong crowd, a hand follows them. It starts pulling on them. And this is the story of my life. All through my life, I know the hand of God has been there, even when I was at school and as a teenager, a young person, and got into tricky situations. But looking back, God's hand was there. You see, you may be able to sing like a bird, but it takes the 7th hand to anoint your song. You can be brilliant in the pulpit as a preacher, but head talks to head without him and without the Holy Spirit. You see, ministry can't be reduced to programs and styles and formulas or to this or that. That's why we need to fast and pray and seek him with all our hearts. And in the book of Revelation, we see that the number of the Antichrist is 666. You see, he wants to be God so bad. He goes all the way to 6, but he can't get any further because it's the hand of God. And in the Old Testament, Elijah was a praying man, and he prayed for rain because there was a famine in Israel in 1 Kings 18. So he goes up to Mount Carmel and he puts his head between his knees and begins to pray, God, send the rain. And he says to his servant, go out to the cliff and see if there's any signs of rain. There has been no rain for 3.5 years and we need rain. So the servant goes out and comes back. What did you see? Elijah asked. He said, nothing. Elijah said, go again. And he went a total of 6 times and didn't see anything. Then the prophet said, go one more time. The servant went back and then ran to Elijah and said, I saw something. What did you see? I saw a cloud, the size and shape of a man's hand. It's the seventh hand coming to help us. It's the seventh hand bringing the rain to our nation. Joshua and the Israelites marched around Jericho 6 times in silence. Nothing happened. But then the 7th time, all hell broke loose because God delivered the city to the Israelites. The walls fell down on the 7th time. You see, we're not in this alone. When I've done all I can do, that's when the hand of God comes and makes the impossible possible. When I am weak, the 7th hand comes, the hand of God. Then I am strong. It can do what I cannot do. When Jesus was on the cross, there were 7 statements that he spoke when completing his earthly duties. It's no coincidence, I believe, that God has appointed 5, like 5 fingers in a hand, ministries that do God's work on earth: the apostles, the prophets, the teachers, the pastors, the evangelists. You see, you can do what you can do, and our God not only joins with you, but is the God of the impossible. Without me, you can do nothing. Your efforts are confined only to the days you have. God bless you richly.